Welcome. My name is Damon Brown. This is the Bring Your Worth Show, Bring Your Worth TV. Thank you for coming through. I apologize for being a little bit late today. We're actually having some really bad weather here in Las Vegas. It's affecting a lot of the technology, so everything's going a little bit slow. So thanks for your patience, especially y'all over on Amazon. I know we had some trouble connecting. Y'all on LinkedIn, y'all on YouTube at bringyourworth.tv, y'all on Amazon. Much respect for y'all. Thank you for coming through. This is the Bring Your Worth Show coming to you every Wednesday and Sunday, most Wednesdays and Sundays at 11 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, Vegas time. If you want to subscribe, you can subscribe for free below over at bringyourworth.tv. Just click the subscribe button and you'll be supporting the channel. And you also can hit the little bell and you'll get notifications for what's happening. My main focus is helping you as a side hustler, a solopreneur, otherwise a non-traditional entrepreneur, as I am myself, and help you bring your worth, as my shirt says. In case you missed it, just had a marathon about just over a week ago, and it's about making your business more profitable in the upcoming year. We'll be talking a lot more about that a little bit in this show, but a lot more in the live shows we have coming up this month. It was a live stream of all my live streams last year. So we're talking about 8, 9 hours of talking about emotional intelligence, which actually can affect your profit, believe it or not. I break it down why in the marathon, to directly talking about how you get more indie money, to negotiating contracts and so forth. Looks like y'all have gotten a lot out of it. There's so many folks that have come through and new folks that I've connected with in this community because of the marathon. Thank you so much for the support. It works out really well as audio. I've been emphasizing this in the recent live shows because it's a visual platform and it's called bringyourworth.tv. Sometimes people are like, oh, well, I need to sit and watch. No, actually, you don't. Even though I love entertaining you and connecting with you. But I take my favorite podcasts and my favorite video series when I'm walking outside. I live here in Las Vegas, so it's pretty mountainous. So when I'm going on a really small hike or whatever, I'll take it with you. This is something for that. I've also done a ton of road tripping, gone cross country quite a few times. Take me with you on there. This is something to kind of give you that game, even if it's certain gems where you're kind of drifting off and you catch that little thing, you're like, oh my gosh, this is how I need to operate my business. This is how I should do my startup. This is how I should do my side hustle. That's trying to give you that kind of energy. So be open to it, check it out, see what's happening. I also have my new book coming out October 20th. Oh man, about a month away. The complete Bring Your Worth collection. It's actually the eponymous, we'll call it eponymous book. The book actually came out, all these books came out before Bring Your Worth.tv. So the TV show that you're watching is actually named after the book series. But all three books are in there, and they're pretty big books, as you can tell. So it's the Ultimate Bite-Sized Entrepreneur, the original bestseller, and then it's Bring Your Worth, obviously Bring Your Worth, and then Build From Now, my book that came out a couple years ago. Thanks for all the love and support of it. You can pre-order it at all the links below. So if you click below, or if you're on Amazon, you click on there and pre-order it. Support your local indie bookstores as well. You can do that through bookshop.org. All the links are below for whatever you need. If you want to support me as an indie publisher, and you also want to support your local bookstores, which frankly you should. Now live, my keynote from the American Society of Journalists and Authors Conference, Building Your Most Future Resilient Career. It is focused on creatives and it's focused on writers, but it applies to anyone who's afraid of artificial intelligence and or if any kind of creative work you do might be undervalued in the very near future. It's a concern of mine too. I broke it down. It's about a half an hour long. A lot of y'all came through for it. I did the keynote over the summer, and then I was able to partner with ASJ, and they graciously allowed me to take the audio portion of it. So it's just listening, the audio portion, and have it exclusively here on the Bring Your Worth show. If you click on the link and you actually want to see the full keynote and get all the bonus stuff and go and get all the bundles from the conference, because they hooked it up really nice this year. If you're a creative, if you're interested in writing or journalism, definitely check it out. Click on the link, and then a link below that, right below the video, then you'll see a link to asj.org, and they'll hook you up with everything over there. You can tell them that I sent you. And tomorrow, I'm excited about this one. More Profit 2024. What else can I say? I'm going to give you as much game and insight as possible so that you can make the next year better than this year. I tend to work 1 year to 5 years ahead as far as how I think strategy-wise. So my alarms are going off right now because as of this recording, we're in the middle of September. That means that we're about to get into the fourth quarter. Whatever analogy you want to run with, sports wise, otherwise, go for it. That means that you should be prepping for however you're going to conduct your business, whether it's a new business, whether you're pivoting your business. If you haven't made much of a profit this year, you want to change that. Now is the strategy. That's one of the reasons why this particular month, as you might have noticed, every single weekday, I'm actually going to be coming live to you at 1:11 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, Vegas time. So this is probably, almost in the middle of, I think we're actually literally in the middle of September right now. And so I've already done about 8 shows and marathons and some stuff on the weekends. Absorb all this content. My main goal, I'm a business coach, so my main goal is to think about strategically how I can help you get to the next level, whether it's through this TV show, through the books, including the new Bring Your Worth coming out, as a business coach, as a keynoter. All this content is available for you on the channel for free. So be sure and check it out. If you like this kind of content, again, go ahead and subscribe. So many of you have come through and you've given me personal insight and personal feedback as far as what you're getting from the show. And time for a tea break. If you tuned in on Tuesday, you know what kind of tea I'm drinking. All right. Today's show, grow your audience for 2024. Seeing a theme, right? I'm saying 2024, not for the headlines or the SEO. If you're more into the website type of stuff, no, I'm saying it because now is the time for us to prepare for the next vibe, for the next wave of whatever is going to happen next. If you're not happy with the audience, size of audience that you have, there's certain things you can do to make that audience bigger. And that could be the audience for the books that you have coming out. It could be the audience for the shirts that you have. It could be the audience for the dry cleaner that you have. It doesn't really matter. The stuff we're going to talk about today applies to anyone who is trying to create a community and wants to grow their audience. There are certain times where growth doesn't make much sense. I had an episode from a couple of days ago where I talked about scaling your business. You can check that out in the links or go to bringyourworth.tv and you'll see it in the series of a couple of days ago. I believe it was episode 342, and it's about scaling your business, going from small to big. I'm so glad I started numbering these episodes because we're up to like almost 350 now. I just started numbering these joints. Otherwise, I won't know where to direct y'all. So it's around episode 341, 342. You'll see it in the links. If you know you want to get a bigger audience, though, then this is the program and the discussion for you. If you are struggling or having challenges or have big questions about growing your audience or you feel like you're stalled, go ahead and throw the question in the links. I'm happy to go ahead and give as much feedback as possible. And as I've learned in keynotes and a lot of these live shows, if you end up having a burning question, oftentimes other people will have the same question. And so even if you're like, well, I don't want to ask a question, you asking that question might actually help uplift the hundreds, in some cases, thousands of other people that end up watching the replay or the live show of this, and that can help them elevate, which is one of the reasons why I had the Bring Your Worth TV show, where I wanted to give a safe space so that I can go ahead and connect with y'all, give as much insight as possible. And then maybe if you're watching this episode well into the near future, in the year 2034, there might be some gem or insight that you can take from it. So don't be shy. Feel free to jump in and ask some questions about building your audience. So one question that I get a lot is, Damon, what is my audience? And it's not a silly question. In fact, it's a great question. Because if you don't know who your audience is, then how can you give the right product or service for them, right? How do you know? Like, I don't know. I think your audience comes down to two basic things. The people who support your work, so your Patreons, and the people who you're doing the work for, the people who you're serving. Those might be two separate things, which is, I think, why we get confused sometimes. And I understand, I respect that. Don't feel bad if you feel a little bit confused by that. Because sometimes the people that support your work are the people that write the grants, right? They're the people that are the venture capitalists. Shout out to all my VCs out there. They're the people that fund the work. But then the people you serve might be the people in the community. They might be separate. Mine always tend to overlap because I work with the side hustlers, the solopreneurs, the bootstrappers, a lot of people probably like yourself. But y'all are also the people that support me by watching the show, by buying the books, by doing the different things. One thing you're able to do, no matter what your circumstance is focus on the 1,000 true fans. This idea actually comes from Kevin Kelly. He's a old school technologist. He might have been one of the founding editors of Wired, if I'm remembering correctly. And what he talks about is having 1,000 true fans. In other words, those fans that will, if we talk about from let's say you're a musician. So the 1,000 true fans will buy the vinyl, buy the t-shirts, buy the hats, buy the mugs, come to see you in concert. I have a good friend that just went to the Beyonce concert. True fan of Beyonce, right? Flew somewhere, paid probably an exorbitant amount of money to see Beyonce. True fan, true fan. If you have 1,000 of those true fans and they give you, say, $100 a year from the different merchandise, services, whatever, you start to multiply that and you're making a living in most places here in the United States, if not Canada and Mexico. That's what he talks about with 1,000 true fans. I actually have an episode that talks more about 1,000 true fans. And let me go ahead and get it up for you. So it is how to grow an audience if you have none. This episode in the links talks about all the different strategies, including 1,000 true fans. There's another strategy from Seth Godin, who, if you're familiar with the channel, you know I adore him. He talks about having a minimal viable audience. So focusing on the people that you want to serve the most. When I first started my coaching practice, I literally had one client. That was my client for 6 months to a year. And then I got a second client, and now I have several clients. But it began with that one client and serving them the best. And in serving them, I learned all these skill sets. Shout out to you. All these different skill sets that now apply to the many clients I have now. But over time, that grew an audience. If you want to call having a coaching stable an audience, that's part of that discussion. When it comes to true fans, if you want to be a true fan and or you want to rock what I'm rocking right now, there's different t-shirts I'm actually going to be wearing throughout the lives. I'll go and get rid of this humongous bar in a second. But I just found out yesterday that the company I partner with, they're called Spring. You can learn more about them actually at the link right below. They used to be called Teespring. Now they're called Spring. I got these new ones just off the press. Let me put it down here. Got these just off the press. There's a new Bring Your Worth t-shirt. You might have had the Build From Now t-shirt. If you look at the older videos, the vintage ones with the different logos from my last book, Build From Now. Those are still available at my website at damonbrown.net. You can get them directly from me. The new joints, though, these shirts, there's also a hoodie and also a nicer shirt, which is a little bit more expensive if you want to splurge. I just found out yesterday, which is why I'm throwing it up here, that there's a sale going on at spring.com where it's 20% off everything if you use the promo code there. So if you're looking to cop some of the Bring Your Worth merchandise, particularly the clothing, this is absolutely the time. It ends today. Like today is September 14th as of this recording. So you want to go ahead and click on it now if you want to rock with it. No problem if you don't want to do it. But I'm saying there's a gap here. If you watch my show, you know that I don't do coupons. I don't do coupons. I do bonuses. I don't do coupons. I have whole episodes talking about that. Particularly, there's an episode about why you're not charging enough, which ran last week. Check it out. I talk about why. But in partnering with spring.com, they're doing their thing. If you're looking to do a t-shirt, check it out. This would definitely be the day to do it. This is something, and the mugs, which are available at damebrown.net, these are things that true fans do. They rock with it. And so there might just be a handful or a little bit more folks that have the mugs, but the folks that have the mugs are helping to create that audience. And they're basically saying, I'm helping create the community that Damon is building. I want to be part of that. There's a lot of different things that I have from stuff that I have from TED, which is all behind me. There's so much paraphernalia, and me saying, "Oh no, I rock with this group right now." So I'm part of this tribe. Again, as Seth Godin said in one of his earlier books, these things represent something. This is part of how you can build an audience and or help the audience feel like that they're part of a greater community. Both those things are really important. For my writers out there, if you want to get hardcore, you see you see the dog ears. So I'm not just puffing smoke like, oh, there's a great book. No, I'm not. Nobody's playing around. Guerrilla Marketing for Writers. This book is old. Let me put the bar away so you guys can see me. Look at my eyes. This book is old. Look how dusty this is. I don't even mean my copy is old, but I mean this book, I won't even look at where it's coming from. Like it has to be in the late 90s. It's from Writer's Digest books. They don't play. If you're familiar with Writer's Digest magazine, if you're a writer, you're a professional writer, you need to get on Writer's Digest magazine. They've been in the game forever, back when I was a wee lad. This is a fantastic book. The first author, J. Conrad Levinson, he actually did a very famous book called Guerrilla Marketing. Let's take that away. Called Guerrilla Marketing, talking about, if you're familiar with the guerrilla idea, it's a certain type of strategy often applied to warfare. Let's be clear. But a certain type of strategy where you're going against something and have way less resources than what you're going up against. So then you have to be strategic. I'm a coach. I love strategy. There's so much game in here. I believe it's 100 weapons. See, I wasn't kidding. 100 weapons for selling your work. Each of these dog tags, and there's other stuff I circled in here. I've got about 3 bestsellers under my belt. I did not do it on my own. This is one of the things in the treasure chest. I don't think I've ever mentioned it on the show, so it felt like a good time to do so. If you're a writer, you absolutely need this. If you're a creative, a lot of the tactics in here actually apply to you too. So I know a lot of photographers. There's some in my family. There's folks that are artists, as far as like more drawing or painting. All y'all can get something from this. Also, as I alluded to, this is actually a series. So it's for writers, but there's a bunch of them on there. So feel free to click the link below. It will go to Guerrilla Marketing for Writers, but I'm guessing if you go to Amazon or whatever, it will also give you all the other ones. I think there's dozens now. Again, this book is classic, and the stuff in there is still relevant. I flipped through it. It's still relevant today. Rock with it if you're trying to grow your audience. That's such an important element of what we do, because if we're just creating stuff to create stuff, if we're just creating stuff to create stuff, that's not going to impact the world, is it? Like, it's kind of, as one person said when I was in grad school back at Northwestern, they said, if you didn't want the feedback, then you can write in a diary. I'm paraphrasing. But in other words, you can have these big ideas as much as you want. But if you're going to show up as a writer, in my case, as a creator, with the work that you do, at a certain point, you're going to have to face that friction of people doubting your work, of the audience that you thought was there not really being the thing. Even the people that said they would support you financially or otherwise, I'll buy that book when it comes out, I'll buy your sculpture, whatever, and then I'm not showing up. That's part of the game. I'm not trying to be negative for you. Just that's part of the hustle, frankly. What I'm trying to do is give you as much insight and tools as possible so that you can break through those spaces. I remember having book signings where literally no one came. Me flying across the country. I swear, me flying across the country, showing up somewhere, and nobody showed up. You have to have enough perseverance and insight into what audience you want to connect, and have that faith when you're in that space where people don't necessarily rock with you as much as you'd like them to. I'll get off my sermon for today. Feel free to put any questions or comments or feedback as far as you working on an audience. And that gets into the second question. How do I find them? How do I find my audience? I don't know where they are. I keep looking around. I don't know what the wave is. I don't know. I don't know where they are. And that's a tough place to be. One of the best ways to actually show up. Well, I'm kind of burying the lead here, or saying that I'm saying the punchline at the beginning. The best way to find the audience is to be the audience. It's called signaling. If you represent who you are, or at minimum represent who you want to serve, then they will find you. The question is how long you're able to be consistent in that space. That's why it's a little bit more helpful if you're passionate, or you care, or you're really into whatever you're trying to pursue, because that's going to give you that fuel to get through, as I just talked about, those times when doubt might creep in. But you have to represent whom you want to serve. I'll give you a really simple example. My thing is helping non-traditional entrepreneurs. Again, the side hustlers and the solopreneurs. But let's say I had a Rolex watch and I was wearing a super fancy suit. See, I don't even know what the name of super fancy suit. And I was, calling in and doing the Bring Your Worst show from my palace here in Las Vegas. That doesn't represent my audience. Everything here I made with my own little hands, including this book. Shout out to the printers. I didn't make it that much. And so I'm representing the people I want to serve. Even this shirt, it's not fancy, but it's homemade. It's from me. It represents me. In that representing me, those of you that rock with that type of idea, that aesthetic, if you want to get fancy about it, are going to recognize that. And you're going to be like, oh, Damon's one of us. Or Damon's where I want to be. So I'm going to rock with him and see what he has to say. I'm just using myself as an example. Apply it to you and your work. How are you signaling to the people that you serve that you are actually there for them? If you're not doing that, there's going to be a certain gap. And that might be, if you're struggling to find an audience, that might be part of the issue, is that there's a gap between how you're showing up and how you're trying to serve the people that you say you want to serve. There's an excellent book that talks about this. As soon as I find a link. I told you there's some storms today, so the weather's getting a little bit weird as far as the technology. By my homie, Nilifer Merchant. Shout out to you, Nilifer. The Power of Onlyness. The link is right below. I don't think I have the link on the Amazon, but feel free to look it up. You can just look it up on my shop. Fantastic book. There's so much stuff I can say about this book, but it's about finding your unique identity, or at least embracing your unique identity, and then finding others who connect with that particular identity. So it's almost like being only, but with other people, if that makes sense. Give a shout in the comments if that makes sense, or if it doesn't make sense. I'm happy to break it down more. It's tough to say. There's like 3 or 4 concepts in here that I've cited in my book several times. She cited in, of course, the complete Bring Your Worth collection. All the links are below. It'll be coming out in like a month. But one of my favorites is she talks about signaling. And signaling was the first time I ever heard of it. This book came out a good 7-8 years ago. Signaling is what I just talked about. When you say, I'm going to represent a certain idea, a certain aesthetic. This is important to me. I'm going to show up this way, even if other people do not understand what I'm trying to do. I'm secure enough, or at least I'll muddle through it enough to make that happen. And what happens is that it becomes a signal. And then other people say, oh, that's what you're doing? That's against the grain, but I like it. What are you trying to do? What impact are you trying to make in the world? Again, the subtitle, make your wild ideas mighty enough to dent the world. That's kind of the point. So it's like you and merry band of misfits, dating myself there, but the merry band of misfits saying we're all different, but we all want to change the world in a particular way. There's so much power in that. That I believe is what, at least in my definition, what an audience is. Because if your audience was the same as the audience for everybody else, then why are you doing what you're doing? Let's be blunt about it. What's the point? I'm thinking about Northwestern a lot today for some reason, but it was another gem that I got from grad school, and they were saying don't waste the time. If I did magazine publishing, so if you're writing a magazine article, newspaper, whatever, don't waste the time, don't waste the words. If you're going to write an article about something, have something to say, make an impact with it. If it's fluff, then what are you doing? It's the same thing here. So it's not just a matter of saying, I want to grow my audience. It's also a matter of saying, I want to grow my audience so this thing can happen. So side hustlers, solopreneurs, and other non-traditional entrepreneurs can have their particular viewpoint, their particular POV, their underrepresented viewpoint brought out into the world to make an impact and make it a more equitable place. That's not a small feat, and it's not, in that latter case, that's not something I can do on my own. So it's a matter of making that impact and then finding people who will help make that impact with you. Not for you, but with you. She talks about a lot of that stuff. So shout out to Nilofer. Fantastic book. It stays on my shelf. These books behind me are only a fraction of the books that I own. But the ones on the shelf are the go-tos. This is usually right above my big head, right over here, right next to my grandmother, right above me. So this stays in here. Please check out the book if you have not checked it out already. This ties into a good episode from about a year ago. It's one of my favorite episodes. And again, we're about 350 deep, so it says a lot. What to do when you aren't taken seriously. It's a tough one, folks. It's a tough one. But if you're trying to make an impact in the world, I will guarantee not everyone will take you seriously. What I'm most known for is an app that connected people for hugs. That's how I made my bones. That's how I sold my startup. That's one of the reasons why I'm talking to you now. And it's just one of 3 or 4 things that happened in my career where I started it and people are like, are you out of your mind? And then come to find out it was exactly what the world needed at the time. So if you listen to the doubters, which they have a place, certain ideas should not move forward. But if you're confident in that idea and you know there's a certain audience that you can impact with that, and you think you can make an impact in the world based on building that audience, then go for it. This talks about that. You need to have, as Angela Duckworth talks about, you need to have grit. This is where the grit comes in. This is the hard part. Definitely, out of all these episodes, watch this recommended episode, please, because it's kind of the thesis of everything we're talking about today. Oh, thank you. Thank you for the question. Good afternoon to you. Excuse me. This would be great for a tea break. Can someone still grow a YouTube channel after a 5-year hiatus with different content? I'd say absolutely. And I would expand it beyond just YouTube. I give myself as an example. I had a couple bestsellers and some books early in my career that are focused on technology and intimacy. So basically how technology connected us, which eventually, as you can probably figure out, led to me co-founding a startup that connected people for hugs called Cuddler, which I talked about in the aforementioned video. After I sold my startup, then I wanted to, as I'm talking about today, wanted to help other non-traditional entrepreneurs. Because when I sold my startup, I'm African-American. I'm a stay-at-home dad. At the time, our son had turned 2 when I sold Cuddler. I wasn't living in Silicon Valley. I was approaching middle age, like all these different things that didn't match. They call it pattern matching in San Francisco. So I want to help other people who didn't pattern match the new entrepreneurship, the non-traditional entrepreneurs. All my books since then, a lot of them are in the complete Bring Your Worth collection coming out soon, are not connected to intimacy and technology. I bring this up because it's more about you serving a particular audience and you serving them well. And sometimes ends up being you going back, and I think Steve Jobs said that, where you follow the dots, but it's not until you look back where you realize how all the dots connect. And my work with intimacy and technology isn't too much different than me helping y'all leverage technology and other resources to make an impact on the world now. So in a sense, if you're doing a particular YouTube channel, particular line of books, in my case, or whatever, and it's feeding a particular audience, maybe with the new ideas you have, there's some type of, like a Venn diagram. You think about the big two circles overlapping. Maybe there's some type of overlap that will allow you to feed the audience that you want to go to next. So yes, you can absolutely, this will be called pivoting. You could absolutely pivot into a different place, and you might even have more success, however you measure those metrics. I think the key thing though is to figure out instead of saying, okay, the content's going to be different. Yeah, but where does the audience overlap? And I think that's really where the key thing is. Some of the people that made my books bestsellers ages ago, I won't even say how long ago, see the gray hair here, are the same folks, some of the same folks that are making my stuff bestsellers now. Even though the content is a little bit different, but they still get the vibe of it. And there's that overlap there. So I'd say focus on not how the audiences are going to be different as far as new content you want to do, but focus more on how the audiences are going to be the same. And maybe there's some type of overlap that'll make that pivot more gentle. Like what new content you want to put up is actually closest to the old content you want to put up. And once you do that, then it becomes a gradual climb, and that audience might actually go with you. If you, my 27th book, again, the complete Bring Your Worth collection, is about to come out in October. But if you look at the lineage of my books, there was no hard lefts. It was more like, okay, this is the direction we're going in. I'm interested in this. Are y'all rocking with me? Yeah. Okay, cool. We're going this direction. Oh, we're pivoting. Yep. And suddenly we're over here. So I'd say look at it less black and white and more like, where's the overlap between these two potential audiences, and how can I make content that can slowly get them into the direction I want to go in. So hopefully that gives you some insight. I appreciate the question. Feel free to throw a follow-up in there if I didn't get it exactly to where you need it to be. But yeah, that's a valid question. I respect it, because we deal with that all the time, and it's tough because we want to grow as creators, as artists, as business people, whatever moniker you want to put on yourself. But we're not always sure if the audience is going to grow with us. And that's a tough place to be. But we also have to have enough faith that we're being called in this particular direction for a particular reason. And if I was worried about, I'm known for writing about and talking about intimacy and technology, I can't explore these other things, then we literally wouldn't be talking now. So best of luck as you move your channel forward. I think there's ways that you can make the transition a little bit more gentle. So keep some of the stuff I said in mind for sure. So thank you. All right. And then the good problem we want to have, and hopefully the gentleman that just tuned in will have this problem soon. Excuse me. How do I manage my growing audience? Which is a tough one. It's a tough one. Oh, thank you. It's a tough one. Like, how do you manage your growing audience? Because here's the thing. Eventually, you're going to get what you want. And as a business coach, I would be remiss. I'll be doing a disservice if I didn't say this. I say this to all my clients. You're eventually going to get what you want. If you stay persistent, consistent, as we talked about in reference to Nilüfer's book and all that, you're going to eventually get what you want in some form. It might come in a different package, but you're eventually going to get what you want, right? Once you get that abundance, how you manage it, how you handle it mentally, emotionally, even physically, you got to make sure that you're fortified, that you're grounded. Because if you're not, that can go to your head. You can get a windfall of money and then just blow it. Like, I've been in those different situations, and you want to make sure that that stuff that you've been asking for, that you're actually ready for it. The audience for this channel, exactly a year ago, there was about 600, maybe 500 subscribers. Now there's 18,000 of y'all. That just happened within the last year. The only reason I bring that up is that no matter what we're doing, there's going to be a certain moment where things will move. And that stuff we've been asking for will suddenly be here. So the question is, if you have an audience of, let's say, 100,000, and you're used to having an audience of 1,000, then how are you actually going to take care of them? What are you going to do? And how you make sure that you serve them in the same way that you serve them when things are way more intimate. This is a good video to watch. Episode also came out, I think, about a year ago. How to build a following and maybe go viral. I've had big moments, like books that have gone #1, or, as I mentioned with Cutler, with the startups, or even some episodes of this channel that have suddenly caught on fire, including recently. Those moments don't matter if you don't have a system in place to take advantage of that moment and or to continue to serve folks. If you're saying, I want an audience of 10,000 people for this new book that I have, but you don't have a good relationship with the printer and they can only do 10 copies at a time, then it doesn't matter if you have 10,000 people that are pre-ordering. You're not ready for it. I got books in my closet. This is my office. I got books in my closet right now. Just in case y'all want some, it's at damonbrown.net, and I can sign them and have them to you in a few days. You have to have your stuff prepared and organized when you get that moment that you've been asking for. This video talks about that. We talk about, particularly when it comes to videos, we talk about, or even social media, which whole other discussion. I've had long keynotes and stuff about social media. Just go to bringyourworth.tv and you'll hear my big discussions about social media. Maybe we'll do it for a future live episode, since we're doing a lot of lives here in September. But it might be a social media post, it might be a video, it might be whatever, and suddenly skyrockets. Okay, then what? Depending on the situation, you might get a little bit of money from it, but then are you prepared to continue to serve that audience? I've been really thankful in that a lot of my success, quote unquote, came late. So by the time I had a best-selling book, I'd already done 9 of them. My first best-selling book was in 2010, and I had been writing books since 2006, 2007. Yeah, I think it was like my 10th book. Even with this show, the 18,000 of y'all that are coming through now, the show's about to have its 3rd anniversary. So for 2 years, I just had a few hundred of y'all coming through, and I kept showing up for y'all. But the beauty about that, which I talk about here, is that those of you that are coming through the door, you caught a viral video of mine or whatever, you have, was this episode 344? You have 343 episodes that you can rock with. You have 26 books, soon to be 27, that you can catch up on. So it's a matter of creating and building for those audiences that you know are there, so that when you do have that moment, that jump off, as we used to say, when things jump off, suddenly you're able to go ahead and serve that audience in a magnitude, and you're able to keep that audience going. A lot of you that have rocked with me from the early days are still rocking with me, which I appreciate a lot. Part of the reason for that is that I've kept serving y'all. Whether I was under the weather, I was on book tour, whether it was a pandemic, I kept showing up for y'all. We have to do that for the audiences and the communities we want to serve. If you're focused on going viral, It has to be bigger than just, I want to be hot today. Particularly nowadays, I have a whole discussion about that because, again, I come from a magazine and newspaper background. So I remember doing articles, and they would be the talk of the town or the city, or in some cases, the country for that period of time. So I used to write for the New York Post and some of the bigger publications. And you'd have like a week or a month where that article will be talked about, you'd be making that particular impact. And I've been in the game long enough, you know where I'm going. And some of y'all don't know any better because you're younger than me. Whatever that spotlight is, it's tiny. So that moment you have in the sun, that moment when people are paying attention to your work, that's the moment when you're able to say, I have this, I've been building this for you. Come on into the community. It's not when things blow up and then suddenly you're like, oh, I should make content. Well, I should write more books. No. You build while other people are sleeping. And then if you do that, then once people wake up to what you're doing, it's a whole different ball game. A great book that talks about this, and all of his books talk about this, is one of the reasons why I talk about him so much. Seth Godin's This Is Marketing. I have just a digital copy. I don't have a physical copy, but it's just an orange book with his bald head on there. I think I'll be looking like him within a few years. Shout out to Seth. Fantastic book. It's the second to last book, I think. Came out probably about 2-3 years ago. I love the title of this. Excuse me. I love the title of this because when we think of marketing, we often think of, oh, well, this person works with PR and or marketing. Okay, I'm going to try to sell people on this. No, actually, marketing, according to Seth, and I would agree with him, marketing is when you say, hey, I know where you and folks similar to you, the audience, is going. Here, if you're doing the late nights, early mornings, you got your side hustles going, why don't you have a mug? Put your tea, put your coffee, put your cha, whatever in there, something stronger if you're of age, put it in there. And then you can look in the mirror or look down when you're having a rough time. You could say, I'm going to bring my worth today. That's marketing. Not from the standpoint of, I'm going to make money off y'all. And not from the standpoint of, I'm going to hustle you, take this mug or in this t-shirt. It's more like, no, these are certain ideas, certain principles, and certain symbolism of what you as an audience care about. Here, as Seth Godin says, here, I made this. If it's not for you, cool. But if it is, I'm going to make it 500% clear of who it's for and who it's not. This mug is for you. This t-shirt is for y'all. This t-shirt is not for, the multi-million dollar Silicon Valley folks. It's not, no shots at them. Some of them are my friends, but it's not for them. It's for you. That's marketing. It's not for everybody. Marketing is a discussion of saying, this thing is for this particular person, for you. I will use my skill set to make it clear that it is for you. I'm not going to hustle you about it. I'm going to get all the details, and then you will realize that it's perfect for you. I love Seth's works, and I love Seth. Shout out to Seth. I always appreciate you. Fantastic book. It might be my favorite book of his as of late. He has some excellent books too. All the links are in there, and there's quite a few episodes at bringingyourworth.tv that talk about Seth Godin. Obviously, I'm a fan and a mentee, so I rock with him. Last parting thought, and feel free to put in any last-minute questions as I wrap up, because I'm already over time because of the technology stuff. Why you don't need more press? You're like, Damon, you're a former and current journalist. Why are you saying you don't need more press? What I'm saying is, let me put the bar down because my hands are going to start going. What I'm saying is that I've seen it from both sides. So when we built up Cuddler and me being the COO, I was talking to a lot of people in the press and getting a lot of press. And obviously, as a longtime journalist, I'm used to companies, startups, founders like myself, maybe like you, coming and saying, hey, I'm going to do this and do that. Why don't you cover us in Inc. magazine? Why don't you cover us in whatever? The thing is that press alone will not build you an audience. We got when we did Cuddler a handful of years ago, the startup that we sold, we got the cover of the Wall Street Journal. It was fantastic. In fact, it was the week of the Consumer Electronics Show, which I live right down the street from the Strip. So it's right down the street from where I live now, ironically enough. But it was before we moved here. And it was a fantastic week to do it because all the tech literati, if that's the right word, even though it's usually used for literature, were there. Fantastic. It made us the #1 app in the world that day, that Friday in January. I share this story because we were already the #1 app 3-4 months before when we were released that September. We became the #1 app that second week of our release. The last week of September. In other words, us being the cover of the Wall Street Journal did not make us hot. We were hot already had an audience of 250,000 people using the app to hug other people. 4 months later, the Wall Street Journal decided to do a feature article on us talking about the cuddle economy. The reason I bring this up is that we get confused sometimes, all of us, including me, that we get an article written about us and suddenly we have an audience. It's usually the reverse. We build the audience and there's enough buzz so that article is written about us, and that keeps momentum going. I talked about it in the live a couple days ago when it comes to making a bigger business. And often, whether it's a book agent or a speaking agent or whatever, for us to get represented, we already have to have a buzz. What the agent or representative does is they put gasoline on that fire or spark we already started. So as you're thinking about building your audience and as you're working through what it means to have a community, keep in mind that having an article or hunting down journalists or pushing for an article to get written, that's not going to get you your audience. What will get you your audience is all the stuff we talked about throughout this show, and hopefully all the resources that are shared here, including the videos and the books. Work on those things, and then the press will come. Build it, and they will come. Feels like a good place to stop. Thank you so much for the comments, and hopefully there's some insights for you too. Come to you every Wednesday and Sunday, except for this month because I'm doing it live every single work day. So you'll be seeing me actually tomorrow for more profit in 2024. Who doesn't want that? Like I said, it's almost set fourth quarter. Be the plan. I'm definitely working on mine. In case you missed it, make 2024 profitable, the business live stream marathon. Particularly if you're new to the show, it's a marathon of all the live business episodes from last year. Be sure and check it out. You guys can be really enjoying it. Don't miss out on that. And again, it's great for the audio. So even if you're outside playing with the kids, taking a long commute, it's definitely that kind of vibe for sure. And that's how you grow your audience for 2024. Thank you for all your insights and for your feedback. And hopefully the books will help you get on your way. And I'll see y'all tomorrow. Remember, you can always bring your worth. You can always build from now. Take care of yourselves.